We depleted 10 years of war stockpiles in 1 month in Ukraine. After 2 weeks of bombing the Houthis, we ran out of TLAMs and JDAMs.
China looked at Replicator about a month ago, and they said, hold my beer, and they placed 1 million kamikaze drone order.
The big thing we need, the big thing Firestorm needs, and everyone else, Andrew included, is a credible demand signal. But I look at the Russian army, and I see my fellow defense analysts tut-tutting about how they're getting smoked, and I say, oh my, do you realize that is us? My name is Steven Rodriguez. I'm the founder of One Defense, and you're watching the Drone Wars podcast.
So, Steve, what do you think the new administration, their approach is going to be towards autonomous systems?
I had a dinner with a very well-known think tank expert, and she characterized the defense budget and what's coming as a accelerator and brake dynamic, where the defense budget overall, and I think even today we saw Hexus comments that like the defense budget is going to go up. I mean, if Senator Wicker and Sask has their way, I mean, it may go up 50%. Mm-hmm. It's going to be significant. However, right, that's the accelerator. However, there are a lot of people that are going to get braked, right? They're going to be on the braking end of this. And I think this is the dynamic that everyone's balancing here in DC around Doge, right? And I still can't believe that we now have to use that term, in a very serious way on a regular basis, which might be one of Elon's most epic trolls, apart from, dropping a $93 billion offer on Sam Altman and completely upending OpenAI. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think if you're in the autonomous system land, I think the world is your oyster right now, because people realize that for too long, I mean, look, how long have you and I known each other? For 8 years more?
Yeah, about a decade.
I met you when you were doing Citadel Defense.
Yeah.
You and I have been trying to look around the corner for a long time, together and independently. And I think now people are realizing that I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but there's this concept called the Overton window, right? It's window for change. And what we're seeing now is a lot of people feeling like they have the opportunity to take a chance or to make a change. This is something they might have wanted to do all along, right? A lot of the stuff they're talking about doing, like getting rid of the penny, getting rid of the penny, that was something that people have been wanting to do for decades.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we
talk
are.
about it as kids, right?
Yeah. Why do we still have pennies?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think without naming specific systems in the military, I think the same could be said for that too, right? Why do we still have XYZ? So I think what we may see here is people doing what they wanted to do for some time, what many of us, have been advocating for quite some time, in print, in video, on stage. And I think that will present a significant opportunity. One caveat, one thing I'm a little nervous about is in the execution of said brilliant thinking, people thinking too small. And what I mean by that is not money, right? I'm not talking about, you should have asked for 20 billion instead of 10 billion. In terms of the programmatics and the execution and the oversight. Right now, what DoD is drowning in, Dan, is essentially a toxic relationship with Congress. And both parties are at fault.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more. That's fascinating.
And this impacts Firestorm. It impacts everyone, not just Lockheed. The challenge to date is that DoD typically does a terrible job of communicating with Congress. Congress, you might have noticed this, but DoD is not a money-making enterprise. And it is also over-indexed for cost instead of time, i.e., they are hyper-focused on getting the cheapest, in this case, coffee mug possible, regardless of how long it takes you. But let me pose a very difficult question to answer. In a Westpac fight, Do you buy a $500,000 missile that takes 6 months to produce, Dan? Or do you buy a $8 million missile that takes 3 weeks to produce?
Hmm.
There's no good answer because to date, everyone would say, Steve, you're an idiot, which could easily be true. Of course, I would buy the $500,000 missile, right? In fact, I would probably try to needle them down even more. They're probably ripping my face off, those disgusting defense contractors, et cetera, et cetera. But in a future Westpac fight, we need, job number one is to move the WEZ, right, weapons exclusion zone, over the Western Pacific where it currently does not exist. Yikes. How do you do that?
Right.
And then and then here's the other thing, you're going to take losses. So great, congratulations on that cheap GSA approved missile. Reinforcements aren't coming for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I think this is a dynamic we want to start thinking more about is, look, we're not indexed for cost, but we're indexed for time. Essentially, what can you do if you have a gun held to your head? And I don't think people today are even as radical as Doge and Secretary Hegseth are appearing to be. Understandably, they're still most definitely indexed for cost and not for time.
So let's riff on that for a second. I was walking Capitol Hill a couple weeks ago, and again, I'll be there again a couple weeks, so we'll see if the tune has changed. But a year ago, when we'd have these conversations with folks, they'd say we have a 6-day problem, so we run out of weapons in 6 days. Okay, a couple weeks ago, it became a 6-hour problem, right? Like we run out of systems we need in 6 hours. So they're saying that, but then they're also saying like, I need to keep costs down, right? At a certain point, like where do you think the light bulb goes off that you might have to spend more money even up front to maybe prime the pump so that you can turn your 6-hour problem into we actually have enough systems now for a sustained 6-month or a 9-month conflict? Or does it not happen?
I mean, the sad truth is the American way of war is quite terrible. It involves us getting punched in the face, taking catastrophic losses. I mean, Revolutionary War of 1812. Washington, where I'm sitting, was sacked in 1812.
Burned the first White House to the ground, right?
Yeah, like double plus I'm good. The Civil War, like the first 2 years of the Civil War, for goodness sakes. World War I, like the Somme. World War II, like not great. I mean, really until 1943, the things start to kind of feel like the battleship was turning in the right direction. Even small, Vietnam, that was a slog throughout without getting into details. And then even, Afghanistan and Iraq. In that case, lightning war. The front end went well, and without relitigating everything, we, forgot how to, secure the peace. So
yeah,
I'm forgiving towards not having enough in the warehouse, right? Dan, you only had 1,000 drones in the warehouse, and it turned out you needed 1,500. Shame on you. I'm willing to give a hall pass on that. The problem again is the time to produce, right?
Mm-hmm.
You at some point you will run out of whatever you think you have or you need. You will run out, and then the question becomes: this is why I'm on the board of this thing called the New American Industrial Alliance, or NIA, which is part of the reindustrialized push. Super exciting. I'm not doing this because it's fashionable. I'm doing this because I can see what's coming, and what's coming is we're going to get punched in the face. And to quote the famous warrior, philosopher, poet Mike Tyson, I don't think we have a plan to get punched in the face, or certainly what to do once we do get punched in the face.
Yep. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Right.
So what are the things you think we should be doing, and what are people talking about to buy down this risk?
Replicator is a very good start. And I say it's a very good start because there was no plan or budget once the previous deputy secretary announced it on stage. I mean, it was pretty amazing because the ANS and I think Secretary Kendall were on stage as well. And it's a great, like The Office, like when the camera zooms in on Jim Halpert's face and he's like, I can't even imitate him. He's got that.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was literally like that. So break. Having said that, I think they've done a very good job given that there was no plan. Having said that, and again, no issue with their environment or Anduril. I want them to be successful. The rub is they made contract awards for 1,000 drones.
Right.
So there's two concerns with that, having nothing to do with the award. One is they're probably 2 orders of magnitude off. Now you might say, but Steve, what basis do you have to make that assertion? Mike, the assertion I have is based on the target list,
right,
that we have in the Western Pacific.
Right. So we have 100,000 targets, and we made
a month, maybe. I mean,
1,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, again, everything is not Ukraine. Everything is not Donbass or Toretsk or Pokrovsk.
Sure.
But it's not that far off.
Yeah.
And so you need to be doing 100,000. And so, but here's the challenge. I don't think we're going to get there even with money. And you know why? Because we do these big the way we buy systems, Dan, is through essentially like a big bake-off, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, we're going to give you very specific criteria, and then eventually, after 2 or 3 years, or even 18 months, we'll pick one. My response is, no, why are you just picking one? Set a common standard, like pretty broad, right?
Pick 10.
And then pick like 10 providers, and then here's the deal. Then you maybe have a Firestorm or some common production center that can be expeditionary, by the way. And then if you want to put all your money and time and do the bake off and the goofy hackathons and everything, you know where I would put my money? On the autonomy layer and on the ground controller. Right. So that's where, you want to get really specific on the requirements, spend your money and your time on the GCS and especially the autonomy layer. Like, nail that, especially for group 1 and group 2. Like, pour your money and effort into that. But there's so many amazing, I really mean this, there's amazing drone manufacturers. Like, don't do this whole, like, what, short range reconnaissance or soldier borne sensor. Well, they were like a 2, 3, or 4 year effort. And then you know what they did? In one case, they picked one provider, then they picked the other one, crushing the previous provider without mentioning names. And in the other one, they just picked the same, foreign supplier, by the way, again. Foreign supplier. So that's not safe.
Right.
And which is at 5x the cost of the current state of the art in the United States.
Drone Wars is recorded from Firestorm's global headquarters in San Diego, California. Each week on the podcast, we bring you cutting-edge insights from unmanned industry leaders. Listen as they share the breakthroughs and technologies they're working on, the hard lessons they've learned, and the bold predictions about what the next 5 to 10 years in unmanned systems and advanced manufacturing have in store for us. Enjoying the show so far? Then be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now back to the show.
Let me summarize some of the ideas I hear here, right? You can buy down risk by basically having a commonality of platform or simplifying a design.
Correct.
And then really putting the money in, and then having multiple providers provide this commonality of design. Sure. So we're talking Freedom Forge 2.0, but you think the money really should be spent on the autonomy stack, right? And there's 4 or 5 companies I know that are like kind of leaders in that, quote unquote, but we need maybe 50, right?
Sure.
And then the GCS and the ground control system, why that's important for folks who are listening is because you need to reduce the cognitive load of the operator, right? So make it easier for one person to run multiple drones as opposed to how a lot of times they do it in Ukraine, where you'll have 4 people running one drone because they need to find everything on the screen in real time to then go figure out and attack it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a harder problem that's less commoditized than, can I build a mil-spec drone? I mean, this is what's great. You and I know this, but this is what's great about Firestorm. Firestorm's like, dude, like, you want drones? Like, we'll we'll produce drones. Like, we can solve that commodity layer. What's interesting again, about what you're doing to me personally is that it's not just, oh, hey, there's this like cool guy in San Diego who like wants to build drones. Like the world needs more cool guys in San Diego, as some have been known to say. But the real issue is like, it's less about where the drones come from. And my bigger concern is like, can you produce them somewhere else other than, in San Diego, in Utah, or hell, even in India? I want to be able to move the production facility to the point of need. And in this case, it's got to be inside the WES.
So you think decentralized manufacturing inside the WES is going to be pretty important if we're thinking about a sustained conflict?
We won't be able to fight. It's an away game. We won't be able to fight our way in, right?
That is the clip of the show right there. It's an away game. We're not going to be able to fight our way in.
Yeah, good. I mean, like the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. My issue, by the way, is not with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's with all the fans inside Philadelphia Stadium. So if you show up unprepared, like there's no cavalry coming to save you. So like, I think the analogy holds in a bizarre way.
Right. Okay. Let's circle up on kind of one more big theme here that you've kind of been talking about here, right? So this is your idea, right? Are people thinking like this in DC, or are they still kind of like more GWAT-ish focused, from how we can conduct effective combat operations?
DC, what DC is certainly the encapsulated by the famous saying, success has many failures, Dan, but failure is an orphan, right? So you have a good idea, and now suddenly you all walk around, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Dan, I've been thinking about this for years," and you're like, "Oh really? Oh, that's interesting because I've never heard you or anyone else say this." So I mean, look, I'll give an allowance that there are other people thinking about this as well. Where I think most people, where their arguments and thinking falls apart, is that they tend to think of solutions in terms of what I call a money gun.
You just shoot money at it and solve the problem.
So the Chinese it goes something like this. The Chinese are kicking our butt. What we need to do is get 100,000 drones to fight the Chinese. Well, that sounds like a money gun issue, right? Where do those drones come from? Well, we'll produce them. Well, who will? It starts and ends with like Congress backing up the truck, right? And bailing out lack of strategic thinking. Similar with, I'm chairman of Blue Forge Alliance, which is the Navy's, multi-billion-dollar submarine production initiative.
Do you guys make those ads I see everywhere that said buildmoresubmarines.com? Yep.
Did you see the Rosie the Riveter ad?
It was awesome.
When I saw that, it blows about 37,000 holes in the current kind of gig worker, kind of Gen Z, like do whatever, it just blows a complete huge hole in that whole narrative. We've made the argument there too. It's like, look, this is not a money gun issue. I'm sure that what's called the submarine industrial base, of which there are two providers, they may beg to differ, but if you backed up the money truck on them tomorrow, it would not meaningfully change the submarine production rate over the next 3 years, maybe. And the reason why is it's not simply a thing where you can throw money at the issue and just bail yourself out of your problems, right? It's an industrial level challenge at one end, and on the other end, it's essentially a con-up, problem. So going back to our fighting our way into the WES argument, like, okay, you can throw 100,000 drones, but if the enemy is guarding their gates, like those drones are going to be golden BBs, right? Just plinking off of, whatever they need, whatever they're trying to get in. Oh, and by the way, geography in the Western Pacific is a tyranny, right?
Oh yeah.
It's your drone's going to fly 2,500 miles. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. Oh, it'll have multiple areas. People will contort themselves in mental gymnastics trying to make that thing work. This is why I think what we're working on with Firestorm is so important. Is you got to find a way to kind of break out of that OODA loop or feedback loop that we find ourselves in. Because everyone else, in your original question, are other people in DC thinking about this? I think they think about similar arguments, but only in terms of, well, we'll have, multi-billion dollars to throw at an existing provider who hopefully can get their run rate up and save us all.
A couple more questions here. Let's go back to Replicator, right? Do people in DC think Replicator and Hellscape are working? Are they positive? Are they negative? Like, what's the kind of the feel on the street?
I don't even know what Hellscape is, but I do know, I think Replicator is generally well regarded. Mm-hmm. They, it's an initiative. They realized that, I think it's generally known that it was kind of a shotgun start, so to speak.
Yep.
And, apart from the fact that Anduril was seemingly the selectee in about 80% of the awards, I think they've done a commendable job, starting from next to nothing. And I will say there are some great Americans working on Replicator as well. So I'd love to see them do more of that. But again, not just focus on, can we get providers to produce more of what they already have envisioned. I think we need to find better ways to get inside our adversaries' plan, because they're planning for that, right? You don't think that the Chinese military, Dan, is sitting there being like, you know what? At some point, the Americans are going to produce more. I think I saw a quote by Ro Khanna saying that the Chinese last year produced like 1,700 ships, and the United States produced 5.
Yeah,
1,700 to 5.
And our answer is to rely on the Koreans to build more ships for us. Like,
yeah. And by the way, it's not like the Chinese are just sitting there like, oh my gosh, the Americans, they produced 1,000 drones. Like, wow, what we need to adjust our con up. Like, this is what they're, no, that complicates, right? If we flood the zone with 10,000 or 100,000 drones, that certainly complicates things, right? I'm not minimizing that, but they are planning for that.
Yeah.
This is no secret to them.
Right. It's all out in the open, and they can start countering this stuff kind of as we build it.
Yeah, 100%.
Great. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. I think we had a really awesome talk. It's really incredible to get your perspective on a lot of these things.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. Each week, we bring you fascinating conversations with leaders shaping the future of air, sea, land, and space technologies. Catch new episodes wherever podcasts can be found. Until then, we'll see you next time.